Hey everybody, I'm Matt, and welcome back to another episode of People in the Room, a podcast dedicated to discussing Christianity in a casual and approachable way. We're still discussing anxiety today. There's a lot to go over.
And we are, in fact, people in a room.
That is correct.
And sometimes we are anxious too.
That is true. If you haven't watched the previous episode, you should, because a lot of anxiety was discussed, shared, and felt by all of us. Anyways.
I caused a lot of it.
Alright, real quick, we'll just go around there and introduce ourselves real fast.
My name is Ian, I'm 25, and I'm an accountant.
I'm Paul, I am the digital outreach pastor here at Scott Lake Baptist Church.
I'm Jon, I'm the senior pastor of Scott Lake Baptist Church. Been here for 25 years.
I thought you almost said 45 years.
Feels like it.
Yeah, I'm Matt, I'm an IT major at Oakland U, and that's it. That's all you need to know, really.
I'm Trent, I am a newly employed contract worker at AI Connected Solutions.
Nicely done, man. Impressivo.
Me one job.
Money is nice.
Who'd have thought, man, right? Yeah. Okay, so we'll just hit a quick review up here. We basically just talked about what anxiety was last time, went over some medical definitions. We went over it as well from the religious standpoint that we should be analyzing everything through. Pastor John, would you like to be able
worldview.
Well,
summarize
I
this
do
for us?
have, before he summarizes it, you do have to watch the first episode because we were discussing what fries.
Yeah.
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah,
What
so-
fries are best? You
yeah.
want to check that one out too.
Yeah, you definitely do. Okay, Pastor John.
I forgot that bit in the
Crucial
summary. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if we, I think the most important part of the discussion that we got to in the first episode was that if God is big and in control and we trust Him, we have the foundation for a relationship where we can handle what is natural anxiety. Some people may have a disorder of anxiety and it's so difficult for them to function, you know, and some people may be having a lot of peer pressure or expectations upon them that they can't meet and they want to and they feel anxious. But Jesus says over and over again, fear not, let not your heart be troubled. He says, be anxious for nothing. He's taking care of us. He's there. He wants us to be at peace. And He gives us the Holy Spirit. And the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace. And that peace is passes all understanding. Mm-hmm. It is a supernatural gift that we have when we're in right frame of mind, focusing on the Lord and realizing He's bigger than our problems and He loves us and nothing will separate us from that.
Perfect summary, honestly. Yeah, I like that. So from this, again, watch the first episode if you haven't, definitely. We're going to springboard from this into how does anxiety differ and relate to different
People,
what am I trying to say? Not people. How does it differ relate to like different topics? I suppose we'll just say that for right now. First up, we have how does anxiety differ from stress? This was a question that you had. I assume you had something to say on it because I wasn't really sure, honestly.
Well, how does it stress?
Create stress.
I think stress and anxiety
I mean, that's fair.
are very similar. In stress is a feeling of being pressed from circumstances, and maybe not really identifiable circumstances. I don't know why I'm so stressed, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm busy. And anxiety can be like that, although I think anxiety is a little bit of a mistrust in our hearts of God. He says, don't be anxious for your food, your clothing, you know, that kind of thing, because you're way more valuable to God than anything. You know, the flowers of the field are dressed better than Solomon in his glory, right? And even the birds of the air get their food, and if one of them falls to the ground, God notices. We are way more valuable to God than that. And we forget that.
I do have something of quite importance before we go any forward. So what do we say to the people who have anxiety and stress and they don't have God, Pastor John?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe you should fix that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Matt?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, it's that passage in particular was interesting to me too. The the very blades of grass outside that we step on without even thinking about, you know what I mean?
Right.
Clothed better than Solomon was in all his glory. I've as weird as this sounds, I've like as the seasons have been changing, like I love spring and summertime. The heat's okay, I guess, but like I mainly just love the fact that the world is alive. You know what I mean? Everything's green and blue
And then
and
we go out
colorful
and
stuff
perform
like
the
that.
forbidden
Yeah.
act known as touching grass.
Yeah. And it's a thing too where like there are just some mornings like I'll be ready to go to work or something like that, and I'll just stop like in our like we got a pretty big yard. Like I love the I love the house that I live in. It's great. And there's times where I will just stop and just kind of look for a bit, you know, and just breathe in the fact that I'm alive on this world that God made for me. And just being able to see all the green grass, green trees, it just triggers something in my head. I'm like, man, I love this. And it just makes me feel that much better when I just go to work. It's just appreciate, like, when's the last time, like, even anyone watching, just honestly, just take a second, step back, and just live in the moment. Just be like, hey, look at all the beauty I've been surrounded with by God.
Today,
It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
today when I was driving here, because I was far from here today, and I was like getting here, I was in nothing.
We waited 40 minutes for this guy.
No,
And then
not
he didn't
quite.
even bring pizza.
Sorry, but I was in the matter of all the farms and just nothing. My son said,
Yeah.
my son said, am I supposed to appreciate all this outside? Because there's nothing but vegetation out there.
He's like, hey, when you get older, you'll understand.
And so,
Yeah.
and so we were like in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
There is a beauty to that. That's the reason I love Michigan, is because like one of the very few things I can get behind our government doing is saying make a bunch of like parks everywhere, preserve nature, and as a result of that, you can't drive 20 minutes through Michigan without seeing like a huge farm of some cattle or like a nice like spot of trees and a pond and a nice fountain or something like that. Like
I saw lots
I
of
love this
cattle and
area.
horses and everything else today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive that far for it.
No.
But yeah, it's just like I love just the I've grown such a strong appreciation so quickly, I've noticed too, just for being able to just look and see God in things, and it makes life so much better.
That triggered something with me. I think that thankfulness is an attitude that Christians should have. That it helps you to realize what's around you to be appreciative of. God saves us not because we're worthy of it, not because we work really hard at it, but because He loves us. Right? He provided the Savior. He sent His Son, Jesus, who took away what we deserve, and that is a miserable death for our sins. He took that on our behalf, and we can have eternal life. By the fact that we are saved by grace, God's wonderful gift of love, we can be thankful, and the proper response to that free gift is gratitude towards God. Gratitude is kind of the opposite, if you think about it, kind of the opposite of anxiety. Anxiety is, I don't like this situation, I want it to change, maybe I want to change it, I don't know quite what to do, I'm not happy about this situation. Yeah. And gratitude is, I walk out of my house, I breathe the air, things are happening, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's the thing where the gratitude, like, it's almost kind of like an unknown thing as well, but you're just happy about it instead of scared.
And it was fresh air too. You know, when you see,
That is true, yeah.
you can enjoy fresh air. It's not like
Ah,
everywhere
fresh
where you
cars,
see.
God,
Exactly.
God put that air there, and it's free.
So far,
Yep.
So far.
Well, the government might find a way to
That's
tax
what
it.
I was
Wait,
trying
wait
to-
until we have have to pay the
Lorax
premium
moment.
subscription for the clean air.
Want a break from the ads?
But, I mean,
Break from
what-
the smog.
Matt, what you said about the gratitude of, and I interpreted gratitude wasn't your word, but I kind of interpreted, I'm thankful for the beauty around me. Well, that is really the solution. If you don't know God, just know God loves you, and you can trust Him, and He will give you every reason to be grateful and joyful and at peace. And it's the opposite, really, of anxiety. And I think the more humanity has this tendency, the more that we get our focus on ourselves, things that really are temporal and not eternal.
Problems that may or may not happen.
Yeah, and the way we perceive things, I think that we put ourselves into anxious situations. I think Peter, I wish I'd thought of it when I was putting together the document, but Peter...
I can look something up if you want.
Peter said, Lord, command me to walk to you on the water. And that was a nice step of faith, because it's God's command that's powerful that made Peter able to walk on the water to Jesus. But when the circumstances got a little topsy-turvy, the wind and the waves, he took his eyes off of Jesus and he began to sink, and he said, Lord, save me. And the Lord reached out, grabbed him, and put him in the boat. So I think that's a great example of why we get anxious, is we get our focus off of what really we need to be thankful for, and that's God's love.
That was something we actually did talk about in episode 1 as well of this, was that it's mainly, like, anxiety is mainly a reaction to losing sight of God, forgetting about it, being distracted by Him. One thing, this is just kind of getting us back to the topic here of how anxiety differs from stress. While I love that I love that example you gave, I was just looking at a more like physical thing here in this definition from the Mellon thing. Anxiety can be a normal reaction to stress. I notice it says a reaction to stress.
Yeah, that's
supposing
true.
that stress is perhaps the catalyst for anxiety, in that stress is the object, anxiety is the reaction, almost. But again, I could just be getting into the weeds here. I don't know.
It's just what
something I
Jesus
noticed.
says
It
before
could
you
just
say
be some
anything.
answers.
Before
Yeah.
Jesus said in the Bible about worry not, fear not, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Us as humans, we always have this problem, and he keeps saying, fear not, worry not, because we're going to have drama, and he keeps reminding us. So no matter what the situations are, I know it's tough to say, fear not, don't worry.
Yeah,
But-
it's easy to say.
Just like Peter said, command me to walk to you, fear not is a command. And it's an empowering thing. When God tells you, Paul, specifically, personally, you're worried about whatever it is, your mortgage or something, for example. I know that's not your situation, but just as an example, fear not, I've got this. If you listen to that fear not, and you know it's coming from a place of God's love for you, then you can fear not. You have the ability to lay down that fear.
Right. People definitely have the ability to lay it down, but sometimes maybe they're so overwhelmed with something going on, they don't know how to lay it down.
And that's focus on God's word. Right?
True.
Well, I know it definitely feels like that. Like, at least for me, sometimes. Like, even if I'm, well, I mean, it's not if, it is entirely possible as a Christian, when you believe in God and know that He's there for you, it's absolutely possible anytime to dump your stuff onto Him, dump your cares and your just your burdens and stuff. But the matter of actually doing it is another story.
Because, we're proud and we don't want to.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
want to do it ourselves.
Yeah, that's one of the
we want
problems.
to keep the
Yeah.
control.
Pride.
Yeah. That I don't know who came up with the expression "let Jesus take the wheel," but like, it is profoundly
I think it's a
like
song.
it's a song.
Let's
really?
make sure that's used
Oh,
in
okay,
context.
Well,
Correct.
I'm just saying, like, I've never heard a just quick phrase be so applicable before.
Yeah.
Because
Well-
we are anxious and worried a lot as
Yeah,
human
and I
beings.
think some of the causes of the anxiety are our overconfidence. Scripture says, "In my flesh there dwells no good thing." I'm pathetic, morally bankrupt. There's not a hope in the world, except Jesus loves me and He gives me His Holy Spirit, and so now it's different. I have the fruit of the Spirit because of Him, not because of me. And if we have the idea that, I will be a great Christian, I will teach a class, and I will sing a song, and I will do all this stuff, and people will be amazed, and
I'm hearing a lot of I and not a lot of God.
exactly, exactly. we are overconfident. We depend too much on ourselves. I think this is even part of the root of how sin entered the world. So think about this. Adam was told by God, from this one particular tree, don't eat. The day you do, you're going to die a terrible death. And it's disobedience to God, which created a separation between Adam and God, which was the terrible death that they died, a spiritual separation. How did Adam, who was created very good, God said he's very good, everything he created was very good, how does Adam get corrupted in sin? Well, he seems to, out of a goodness, wanting to be a good servant of God and do a great job gardening, and that was the task that God gave him, and all of this stuff, he began to think about that fruit that he shouldn't eat, but then if he did, he would be wise. At some point, he had some confidence in himself that he could be a better servant if he would have this wisdom. And his wife didn't keel over and die, literally, when she ate it. So, so I think there's a little bit of overconfidence in people that we can handle our problems. Step back, God, I got this. I think that's one of the ways that we get into the anxiety loop.
And, as he said, we're taught, in school, you are this, you are that, you can do this, you can do that. It's a good
You
ego
cannot do
booster.
this. Stay away from the stove.
Yeah, but that's a great idea. Stay away from the stove.
I got to say this. I just heard on a
It's
news
not cooking.
on a news channel earlier today that
Is it fake news or real news?
American kids coming up in public schools are horrible at math, horrible at science, but they are off the charts in self-esteem.
Well, I heard I don't know how true this, but I heard
they
that
are?
even like a few.
I would think
I heard a few years ago that a high school education in like the 40s or 50s or something like that is equivalent to a college degree like a few years ago or something like that. And
Yeah.
like obviously that's a few years ago. It's probably got even worse since then. But just
So you mean we're getting dumber?
who'd have thought, right?
Right.
We had a visitor in chapel come to talk to us, and I was in seminary, graduate school for Bible study, right? And he said, "You guys are just learning the languages now? Where I'm from, they do that in high school. Greek and Hebrew in high school. Who'd have thunk it?"
Oh my gosh.
I had trouble with
Thunk it.
Spanish.
Yeah. I mean, this. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's something they did teach in high school. Is that something taught in high school?
It was somewhere in
like
Europe.
decades ago or
The
something?
guy
I
came
don't know.
from, I think,
Like
There was a
the
guy
Netherlands or something.
There was a guy that came to my house the other day, and he was asked. He says, "I need to ask you a few survey questions. I'm not a scammer, but this is how I get paid. You mind if I ask you a couple questions?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "What do you think the biggest problem is?" And he had like 5 different choices, and a couple of them was education and healthcare. And another one was maybe corporate profits or something else. But I said, well, I don't know, maybe education and healthcare. That's kind of what I was thinking. And he says, I'm telling you, because they don't teach you anything good anymore in school. They don't teach you how to buy a house. They don't teach you how to do a checking account. They don't teach you anything. This guy was kind of young. They don't teach you anything that's actually that I can use in my life. And I was like, and then he asked me another question, and I just remembered what that guy said, and I was like, it's kind of true.
I honestly.
They teach you a bunch of self-esteem.
Yeah. I've been thinking honestly, like just if by some miracle circumstances align, like I was thinking about starting a college class, literally just called like Adulting 101 or something like that, where you just teach stuff like, hey, here's how to cook basic dishes and feed yourself. Here's how to like do your taxes,
Probably be
checking
very
account.
popular.
Here's how you here's how you just like balance your spending and mortgage and like deal with all of these worldly things that the government just expects you to know.
Right.
Taxes in the
He
United
says,
States
how
are
do you even
so
get a mortgage? They don't even teach you what a mortgage is.
Yeah.
He says they don't teach you any of this, and he says they go to this. You go to this school and you sit in there for how long with all these different teachers, and they give you all this crap that you don't even remember, and all of a sudden now you're supposed to be able to do everything and be all right.
Oh, but you for sure know that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah, and you for
You know
sure
that for
also
sure.
know themes of romanticism in the 14th century or whatever. Yeah,
You know, if
know
we
that
think
stuff.
about your survey, though, with all the people that are out there that have self-esteem issues, and they're out there, and I've had a lot of people that I know commit suicide and all different kinds of things because they are having problems. But where are the people who have the high self-esteem at? Are they in a different country or are they in ours?
They're in our country.
I don't know where they are. Are you sure?
There's a trend these days for kids to be thinking that they know more than their parents.
That's true. I have one of those.
I know you do.
I know.
I do
Are you
too.
sure that's a trend and not just like a phase of everyone's life? Like I
Yeah.
thought I knew more than my parents did when I was younger. I don't think it was
I
really
think
like
the teachers teach
Did
you
you-
this.
did-
though.
anything like that
Did you
yet.
go so far as to teach your parents?
About technology, yes.
Maybe tech.
to an extent, yes.
Technology's different. That they didn't have it when like you
Well,
grew up
I
in it.
mean-
But
Yeah, okay, I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
like, I don't know if we want to get into a controversial topic, but abortion or Israel or whatever people are protesting out there these days. There are
Whatever the general topic
there are
is.
adults that have had these thoughts for years and years, and they've refined their views. And some of these kids are told something in public school, and they go after their parents to try and straighten them out.
Yeah, because you're 30 years of experience. You just didn't know anything during that period.
Yeah,
we have the
obviously.
knowledge now.
Right, because the teacher told me so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's overconfidence.
Who got their news from TikTok?
It's
Paid
overconfidence.
minimum wage.
I don't think we can look back in history and scold those people for not doing it the way we do it now.
Yeah,
I
because
think-
they had different resources available to them, different tools, different
and
methods.
I think they were probably smarter in a lot of ways.
I'm not even
Well,
going
they
to
had
argue
to
that. Yeah.
I met a guy today who knows how to fix a whole bunch of stuff, and if something ever gets broken, he's the guy to call. But however, once again, they don't teach you that in school.
Yeah.
They
No, of course
teach you
not.
a bunch of how to manage your feelings. You are enough. Don't
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys see those all over the place?
You guys
I-
remember when
you
our
are enough.
grandparents were, 18 years old and they were married and buying a house, and now it's like, I'm
Yeah.
25, I'm not even close to owning a house.
Well, to be
25,
fair,
making
the price,
the
of,
meme about
the
this.
price of houses has gone up exponentially too. So,
Oh boy, don't get me started.
but
Inflation. That's a whole new topic.
That was,
no,
that was another topic I wanted to add into that adulting class was like how to change a tire and stuff. Like I think it could just be a bunch of super practical things. I guarantee you, I could make bank off of a textbook for that.
Well, I mean, it's a college textbook. Of course you're going to make bank.
Yeah,
So
I can.
you're going to write it, and then you're going to mandate everyone to buy it, and you get 20%
I don't know
of
if you
all the
make
textbook
bank.
sales.
I sell 2 books.
I disagree.
I
with
make
that,
10K. I mean,
Yeah,
like, is that
exactly.
easy, man?
I don't think you'd sell any books. That's the thing.
Excuse me?
Well,
You
no,
get more
it's nothing
people
against
watching.
you.
You
It's,
get more
it's
people
like, If I
watching.
want to learn how to change a tire, just
Yeah.
look up how to change a tire.
Well, yeah. At the same time,
already been
though, I
done
mean,
before.
Listen,
well, yeah,
Yeah, but
It's
if you made a
YouTube.
tire,
Well,
You
no,
wanna
the
change a
appeal
tire,
of the
it's
class
YouTube.
is that it also gets you credits towards something else.
Yeah, it's an elective.
You know what I mean? It's an elective or a gen ed or something
Yeah,
like
So
that.
then you
check
sell
the
me on the
box.
value of your credits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you sell me, like, you take this class, it's a class that its topic interests you to the point where it's like, okay, weighing this against other classes that I'd be taking, definitely this because it gives me practical life skills I would use later, as
Or I can
opposed
take
to
jazz
yeah,
appreciation.
as opposed to my
It does need to be
exploring
appreciated.
as opposed to my
appreciate that jazz.
as opposed to my exploring jazz class that I ended up taking fall semester 2020.
do you guys have?
It
any
was an
regrets,
interesting class. I'm never using that knowledge again, though.
Do you guys ever have any? I mean, you're an accountant, so we're not going to ask you this one. you have
Your
something
opinion
that's
doesn't
useful.
count.
You know how to do numbers and math, so I mean, it's quite useful. And I'm not saying history's not important and stuff, but do you guys have any regrets of like classes that you have taken that you were all anxious about and you were stressing out, and then all of a sudden you realized after you got it done and whatever it is, it made no difference whatsoever, and you're like, why did I do this?
Yeah, just because I'm in business school doesn't mean I didn't have any of those.
Yeah, no, that's just being in college. Half the
Yeah.
classes you take, at least, are just garbage.
But there was a course. My favorite course I ever took in college was my junior year, so I had to wait I had to wait freshman and sophomore year because I was taking a lot of the electives or the prereqs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The forced ones, so the school makes extra money.
So
Yeah,
you're
exactly,
more
yeah,
well-rounded
pretty much.
and it's more humanities
Yeah,
focused.
well-rounded.
So you're more round.
One of my favorite classes I ever took was a personal finance and church finance management class.
Ooh.
And I told the instructor, I was like, I think, and he agreed with me. He's like, every college major or every major that goes to this university needs to take this class because
Right.
it teaches you how to manage a personal finance checkbook.
Do they still have that?
It gives you and it's under, as far as I know, it's currently under a title that kind of sounds a little deceiving. Like it's called Advanced Financial Management. And
Oh
Sounds
yeah,
fancy,
I
if
would
you're
be
talk-
intimidated
yeah,
by
if
that.
you're
Yeah.
talking to like an engineering major or like a health science major, the appeal wouldn't be there. But like, I mean, when I took the class, granted it was like a level 300, level 400 class, so it's upperclassmen level as far as
Yeah.
workload.
Right.
But the book was just 101 basics, and that was huge
Right.
for like, you know, I still take things that I learned from that class even today, and that was 4 years ago. So
How was the professor in that class? Was he engaging?
I thought he was.
Yeah,
I know that
that's
there's mixed opinions about him.
Oh,
and
okay,
I was one that
There,
actually
there's
enjoyed him.
there's a thing. The professor makes or breaks the class, and that's the thing I've noticed too. is
That's
that-
something else that you can be anxious about as your professor.
Yeah, like just one thing I know. I still remember like I've always wanted to be like a computer science / IT major. That was never in question. However, like I remember taking an intro to business class, and the professor in it, in my opinion, was creme de la creme. Like he was an older guy, so he had like 30 to 40 years of experience at all sorts of businesses, had been around the globe for different countries or companies, I mean, and stuff like that, and like he knew his stuff. Every single point that he went over real world examples, and most of the time had stories of his own to back up the concepts he had, and just because he had lived and breathed it for so long, he was able to portray it in such a way that it was like both down to earth and understandable, while also being incredibly informative. And like he'd also go over current events and stuff like that. And he actually, I don't know this for certain, but I believe he was a Christian as well, because he brought up God a few times during that at a public university too. So major respect for that man. But yeah, that one class, that like 1500 level intro to business class, completely made me consider switching my major because I liked it so much. Like the power just one person can have in your life is
It's so true.
astronomical.
Of course, you can also meld IT and computer science with business.
I mean, that is true. That is true. What do you make about over there? Just because your specific track doesn't mean that other tracks don't.
Just because my better track doesn't mean
Uh-huh.
yours doesn't.
Yeah,
I'm going to say
sure,
something
sure.
controversial before we move on, because
Okay.
I want to piggyback off what he was
Uh-huh.
saying. You know, there now again, don't shoot the person here.
Oh,
But
it's too late.
I
You
love
saying
it.
I know
that,
I'm going to say it.
You saying
but
that has the
I know
internet
I'm going to
pulling the
say
balls
it though.
back here.
So you know, I really respect teachers who can teach because they know something and they've actually been through it and done it. Like he was telling the stories of the stuff that he was able to do to back up his reasoning for it. But really bothers me though is sometimes there's students and who go to school to learn all this stuff to be able to teach kids, and all they have is brainwashed stuff, and they don't have any real world experience. They're just completely zombies, and there's nothing there behind.
Well, I
what
don't
you're
even
saying.
know if I'd say that's zombies per se. It's just the fact that they're young and have the lack of experience.
Well, how
Like,
do you know
I mean,
they're young? Maybe
there's-
they're 35.
Well, I mean, hey, there's a reason that, like, when I started...
Young.
Huh?
That's still young. more or
Well, I'm
less.
just saying. I'm just trying to say maybe they're not 22s. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
okay.
push a little further
Okay,
down the road.
I will say, like, the reason I think you're offering here is the same reason I specifically wanted to have, like, you guys on this podcast in particular, is because I guarantee you, I've already said a bunch of stuff that's probably not the most accurate, not the most true, and I'm sure you've corrected that probably even subconsciously without either of us noticing, you know what I mean? Like, you steering us in the right direction.
That's based on your
you-
life experience. Like,
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You need to have the combination of the young people that like have the drive to like like start new things and do something, that got the world ahead of them, and the people that have the experience and are grounded and know, hey, that's not going to happen, but here's what can. You know what I mean?
Still waiting for those flying cars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm waiting for
The commute to work will be so
I'm
easy.
waiting.
That's what they were reading.
I'm
I'm just
waiting
like,
for that,
If you get into an accident,
I'm-
flying car.
Yeah,
You guys
I'm
live
waiting
in
for
a
that.
world where the anxiety is just like extreme.
No,
you're
I'm just
flying
saying,
cars.
Yeah, imagine a wreck happening above you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah, you just looking up and
Got
cars
it.
just falling down.
that'd be bad.
I'm getting
you
anxious that
know,
we're getting off the topic of anxiety.
Well, no, this
No, I
is
agree.
this is completely on topic. You guys know that George Jetson was apparently born in 2020?
Wow.
So, like, it's coming, apparently.
He was a
He's
Rona
like 4 years
baby?
old.
He was a Rona baby, yeah.
He's 4 years old. Look at that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, George Jetson is alive somewhere right now. It's crazy, because Jetson is real.
Maybe he
Anyway,
was a
What's
sign.
this, like
Next
the name
topic.
finder? You can look up who all has your name.
Yo, we gotta
We have
do
to
that.
do it.
We gotta do that after
We
the
have
stream
to do it.
or after the podcast. Anyways, how does anxiety? Now we're back on topic, guys. Don't worry.
Yes.
How does anxiety differ from fear? Now, before I let everyone else get into this, I had an interesting note. You all are probably already sick of me pulling up APA stuff here, but I think it's an interesting point to make. That the American Psychological Association that I was speaking about earlier, this is the same thing, but I'll say it again to jog our memories here. When I was checking it out, I noticed that they specifically separated anxiety from fear. It says the following about this. Anxiety is not the same as fear, but they're often used interchangeably. Anxiety is considered a future-oriented, long-acting response, broadly focused on a diffuse threat, whereas fear is an appropriate, present-oriented, and short-lived response to a clearly identifiable and specific threat.
I got it.
Okay. So, a thing I've noticed here is, from what I'm understanding, this is saying that anxiety comes from
He's
general...
officially out of the room now.
How dare he?
Just to let you know.
Back on topic.
Okay, yeah.
The IQ in this room just went.
Hey,
Did you say the
thanks.
IQ or IP?
The collective IQ.
Yeah, jeez, man. So, from what I understand, this could be. This is essentially saying that anxiety comes from just a general apprehension of like an amorphous threat that's out there, as opposed to fear being.
We know what we're afraid of sometimes. What
Yeah.
you're
If you can identify the fear, what you're feeling uneasy about, I would say that's fear, as opposed to if you can identify it, or I would say most of the time that's fear, because you can have anxiety towards like specific things, such as this like test.
I
or this
have
class I'm
something I
coming up
bet
for.
that we can just relate, so that way
Okay.
the audience will know just
right,
exactly
yeah.
what you're trying to say.
Go for it.
So this man right here is an accountant, and
How dare he?
I'm just saying. Now he probably is maybe anxious about getting letters from this place called the IRS. And
What's
he has
that?
no control over that thing right there, but he may be anxious about that. So, therefore, that might be, he's not fearful of it, he just may be anxious of it. What would
So-
you think on that? Or just completely off there?
So I'm just trying to think of, say that is correct, then what we're saying is that anxiety can be pinpointed, but the aspect of it is that it's something you
But-
can't control.
True,
anxiety centers
Well,
around
you
the
can't
lack
control
of
good
control.
decision.
you
letter or
don't
not.
know.
What-
You don't know what you did wrong.
Yeah,
I think-
or lack of understanding, I guess, or lack
I
of
think
control.
what we're talking about is technical differences in a modern discipline, psychology.
Yeah, I was going off of secular sources.
When Jesus says, "Fear not," and he says, "Be anxious for nothing," and he says, "Do not let your heart be troubled," it's all synonymous. It's the biblical thing that we are addressing, that we're using the term anxiety for, is more a case, I think, of mistrusting that God really cares or that He's really in control, and over trusting ourselves to get ourselves out of control. Now, fear, all words have a range of possible nuances and meanings, of course. So fear, when we're talking technical, is something that you're afraid of in the moment because there's a real danger right there. Anxiety is probably less definable fear, maybe less acute fear, and it might be more akin to stress or something that you can't quite define. But I think the biblical discussion, the value that we have here is pointing people to God, if you're genuinely afraid of something, deal with it because it could be a danger. When you have something that is disrupting, occupying your time, distracting you from fruitfulness and joy in life, that's the problem of worry or anxiety that I think we're trying to address. We want people to get a handle on that. I don't think it's the same as anxiety disorder, because people that have an anxiety disorder is a chemical thing that's making them feel that way, right?
It's a specific gland either overacting or a specific gland underacting.
Yeah, and that's not that. There's perhaps medical solutions for that. The issue with what God wants us to do is to trust Him and be at ease that He loves us, and give our devotion and focus to Him as a foundation for a life that is more peaceful and calm.
So I have a question, just for fun discussion.
Ready to talk about the accountant thing with the IRS or no?
No.
Okay.
He said, no, don't worry, it wasn't that.
No,
All right.
for fun. Can we agree that
No.
being anxious
Sorry.
is, like, if Jesus says and if God commands us not to be anxious, being anxious would be a sin, right? We're disobeying God.
Well, in the range of meaning of words, there's probably anxiety that's not what He's addressing. I mean, we might use the term anxiety, like a person that's got a chemical.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with my the follow-up question is like,
What's
you know,
the point you can control it?
Well, yeah, it's like if you are anxious and you are diagnosed medically with a certain, your glands are misfiring or whatever the case may be.
You're on pills or whatever.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone in our audience has that kind of condition going on right now. What if they're
I got
saying,
people in my family with that condition.
yeah, well, what if
There's probably plenty in the
So what do you
audience.
say to them if they say, hey, like, am I sinning? Am I in control? And like,
Yeah, I would say that the focus of be anxious for nothing and fear not and let not your heart be troubled is Jesus addressing our misfocus of life. If we're depending too much on ourselves and not enough on God, that's what I think he's dealing with. Don't worry about your food or your clothing, he says in Matthew 6. Well, that's, I have a job, right? It takes care of my need for food and clothing. God gave me the job. It's something I do to alleviate the problem for food and clothing. What the problem I think that he's addressing when he says be anxious for nothing is meaningless, useless worry about things that you should let God handle.
Or that we can't control too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, here's something fun too as well.
Well, wait. I want to
Okay.
make sure that your question got thoroughly answered, because there may be more to it.
no, it for sure did.
Okay.
I was just asking for
I was gonna say something funny, but if you got something more serious,
fun
but
discussion.
Oh, I was just gonna say what you're saying reminds me. Like I was looking through some of these passages here to see if anything corresponded to this, and I'm looking at Luke 12:25 here. And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? Now, I think one thing too is that probably does narrow down the amount of things that are anxious that would be considered wrong, because like for one thing, like you're saying, the potential sin there could be that.
or is it a teaching moment? Is it a sin or is it a teaching moment?
Well, what I'm saying is
Right.
that the sin would be that we are completely needlessly worrying about things that don't matter, like you were
True.
saying. I think it's completely different if you are anxious about something that can affect your life, such as food, clothing, employment, stuff like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
There's just it's just a result of the world we're in. We have fear.
So
Right.
let me throw out a big word here. Part of philosophy is axiology. Axiology is the understanding and ordering of values and ethics. So if you
Is
are
that like those pyramids that have like the different virtues? and
hierarchies
Maslow's
of needs.
pyramid of needs.
Yeah.
No, axiology is basically the branch of philosophy that deals with ethics and morals.
Okay.
Okay, so most of our ethical life relates to value order. This is more important than that,
Okay.
right? So when you put the order of you put your values in the correct order, and you still have some disorder that's causing you to feel anxious, you're not violating the fear not, right? I think when you put the value in the wrong order, I've got to live till I'm 100, whereas God has determined my days, and then so I can't add an inch to my lifespan by worrying. So that's the problem. What is more important, that I choose for myself to live till I'm 100, or to live the life that God has given me the best I can live it for Him, right? And if I've got the values in the right order, I've done what I need to do to avoid the sin of worry, right? I'm still concerned about things. Maybe concern is a worry that is managed, that is appropriate. I'm a little worried about what my kid's getting sick. I'm concerned about my kids getting sick.
Here's an interesting thought too. I just, it came to my mind all of a sudden. I don't think being anxious can be a sin, because we read about Jesus the night before he died, sweating drops of blood, and that's a very medical term. There's a medical term for that.
Yeah,
Experience such a high level of
he said,
anxiety and stress.
I am distressed to the point of death. But it wouldn't be the same kind of anxiety as what we're talking about. Be anxious and sin, or be anxious for nothing.
I would say that more so falls into the category of fear, because he knows good and well what's about to happen.
Yeah.
That's not like something could come up. No, he knows they're coming up the mountain right now, torches and pitchforks.
Yeah, and I would also make the argument that that is also a thing where it affects his life. You know what I mean? It's not exactly a thing that's needless. If I was in his situation, I might be dead already.
No.
Just
Did Jesus put the values in the right order? If possible, let this cup pass from me. That's a value.
Yeah. And that was kind of number one at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, no. But your will be done.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
If possible, let this cup pass from me. That's a value. I don't want to go to the cross. It's going to
I don't
hurt.
want this.
Yeah.
But your will be done.
Okay, that word "but." Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking in the moment there. Yeah, that was definitely second.
It was not
Because
easy
that-
for Jesus to obey.
I can
Right?
imagine.
He obeyed when it was hard.
Yeah.
That's kind of amazing, and I don't think you could call that anxiety in the sense that it's the sinful attitude of putting something more important than God, and then, or more,
You know what's crazy about that too is I don't think he was necessarily fearing death on the cross as the primary. Like that's a horrible way to die. I think the thing he was mostly fearing was being separated from his father.
Yeah, I've heard that's actually a misconception a lot of us have, is that since we think on the physical level, we're like, man,
That would hurt.
Yeah, it's completely understandable if that's what he was stressed about. 100% understand.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be nailed to a cross and whipped until like you didn't recognize I was a human. But the other thing too is that because we are not God, we cannot fathom how deep a connection God would have with himself.
Like a perfect union.
Yeah. Literally no such thing as perfect union. Like, we were talking before stream about, like, me and Sean.
Yeah.
We're best friends, but man, our relationship is the least thing from perfect. We argue almost every time we see each other, but we know we have our backs in the time of need. Still, though, a perfect union wouldn't even have those arguments or anything like that at all. It would just be sad. I assume, at least. This is me assuming as an imperfect human.
Speculate.
Yeah. But I can't imagine how perfect, and as a result we can't, so we don't know the depth of misery you would feel by having that connection severed.
With anxiety too, we have to think about this as well. I was going to say something funny too, and I'm going to probably put it in there a little bit, but there is times where we are anxious. Like, say for instance, there's a soldier in a battle, and he's anxious about the battle, and he's fearful about the battle.
Yeah.
There's times that anxiety and fear may be in that soldier's benefit. Or if, we live in Michigan, we have wolves and bears and Do we have anything else in here that I can say oh my about or no? Coyotes. Yeah, so we have coyotes too, but like if you're in the middle of the woods and you don't have a shotgun, or you're down the street and you're walking your dog and you don't have a shotgun or whatever it is, and you're surrounded by
concealed carry.
Yeah, concealed carry or open carry as long as you have a license. But if you don't have that, and you have a bunch of coyotes or stuff around you, you're going to have anxiety and you're going to have fear. So I mean, no matter what we do, even though we're saying we're going to try to conquer this or conquer that, there's points in our life that
where it's
in other words, you're out walking out on the trail, and wolves are after you,
or coyotes.
For you to feel the rush of adrenaline and whatever else fear is, chemically speaking, how can that be a sin? That's just a natural response.
Right.
Yeah.
But and you're not being told in the Bible, fear not, just walk calmly. God will handle the wolf situation.
Don't be afraid of anything.
We're not Daniel in the lion's den. You know, we weren't we weren't thrown in the lion's den. We're running. I'm imagining.
There's obviously a nuance that the Bible is focusing on when it says be anxious for nothing. I think it's the anxiety that distracts us from what's better. Right? Some things that distract us that we have something should have a higher value. Jesus is the perfect example. I don't want to die. Let this cup pass from me if possible, but your will overrides mine, and I accept that. And, so...
Man, just having this talk specifically about that just for a few minutes just puts it into so much more perspective, too. It's just like, man, it just gets so much more serious, too, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because we were just talking about how much we would hate that.
And
I cannot say the same, that I would be saying the same thing Jesus would.
No. Heck no.
Yeah.
I would like us to take a little stand on... there's a mistaken idea in psychology circles, not necessarily psychology circles, but Christian circles, that say you cannot use what psychology professionals teach you or provide for you because the Bible is there. You got to just trust the word. I am the bread of life. That's it. Or whatever verses they would point to saying you can't take that medicine because you're not supposed to be anxious, and that's wrong. I don't think we know how people that have this disorder feel. And I wouldn't want to judge that, because if I don't have the same struggle as somebody else and I look down on them because I'm doing a better job at something,
or don't have that
big
situation.
Deal. Yeah, I don't have the hurdles to jump over that guy does. So if he needs a pill, I would say be careful. Psychology, medicine, long term, has very negative effects on people physically. But being under the care of a doctor and needing something for an anxiety disorder, I don't think that's wrong. I think that's God made an orderly world that can be studied so that we can learn things about maybe how to make our life better.
From what I'm understanding, again, with my limited knowledge in the field of medicine, but I mean, the way I see it, God gave us the world to discover. I mean, I feel like that's an extension to an extent of the creation mandate, where it's like, be fruitful, multiply, cover the earth, learn about it.
And subdue it.
And yes, subdue it.
Yeah,
learn about it, learn how to control it, essentially. Isn't that what subdue means? Just control? Like, I'm not saying I absolutely want to, like, be trying to control literally everything, but I mean, in sense of being able to benefit ourselves and make lives better overall by combining some chemicals and stuff like that. Yeah.
Man loves to do that, but it's hard because we can't.
I think a better word would be manage.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And like in management, you can't control everything, but you can.
But you can.
Without using the word,
manage
without using the word in the definition.
The idea of subduing the world, I think, is everything is wild. You need to bring it into order so that people can live as God's image in a way that they can serve God.
Yeah.
So
and I think in that definition alone, medicine has a perfect place.
Yep.
In that it helps tame some dysfunction within ourselves that allows us to be better. Like, for example, I have been clinically diagnosed with some really bad, like, depression and stuff like that, and so they have meds for me. I take them, and I feel like I can actually function and be the person God wanted me to be.
Perfect example. Yeah, and so any and there are unfortunately biblical counselors that just say, no, you can't. You don't take a happy pill, get happy by focusing on God. That's what they would say. I've heard that said.
That doesn't shock me.
And I'm honestly thinking that's, if there's somebody that's struggling out there with an anxiety disorder, see a doctor, right? Be wise, maybe get a second opinion.
Or a third.
Yep,
or a fourth until they say what you want to hear.
And
Okay,
put your values in life in order that would be biblical. What's more important? What's less important? When you get out of that balance, that's when the bad kind of anxiety that Jesus says, be anxious for nothing, is dealing with.
So, in that sense, I'm kind of hearing that, like, obviously God's will should be coming first, and then med should be under that, such as, like, medication when taken in the right form, where you are simply trying to, especially like in my case, where I take it so that I can be the person that has this stuff, until it becomes something.
I think your higher value. I want to function so that I can serve God.
Yeah,
that's a high value.
Yeah, you're not using it as
there should be almost nothing. There should be nothing above that value in your life. So I'm having a hard time functioning because of chemicals that are going on because my body's not working the way it should. So if I can function at the level where I can please God and serve God when I take this medicine, then the value of taking the medicine is higher than the value of not taking the medicine to try and establish some kind of I'm going to do this by my sheer focus on God. Because that may not help you function. That may just
Us as people always fail, so we probably won't be able to accomplish that, as he's saying, because, how many times have we tried to say, I'm going to stop doing something, and then all of a sudden we did it a week later.
We talked about spiritual attacks. We talked about spiritual attacks. I think it's a big part of anxiety. I think the devil wants us to depend on ourselves. And, because he knows we can't have 24/7 focus on what's right and good, and we get distracted. Squirrel.
I've seen that.
So
It's a movie.
The movie is Big. I don't know if you ever.
It's a dog with a squirrel. Squirrel. He can't concentrate, so therefore, because of the squirrel, he's super smart, whatever. But
maybe someone out there will know the reference.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think when you're making a decision for your life, should I be on a psych med? Should I not? Or a depression med or anxiety med or not? People will tell you your biblical study has to be higher than your seeing a doctor. No. What matters is, are you able to function on a level where you are serving God and doing what He's called you to do and using your gifts and being a blessing? That should be the operating principle that helps you decide whether or not to take that. Now, you can take it, and it can also lower your functionality.
Yeah.
It can have bad side effects. Long-term use can impair you in some ways. There's a fellow in my church that has had long-term use, and he's really not able to function, because of that. So, I would say your operating value, the value you strive for, is I want to serve God. That's my life, and with all this frantic worry that's distracting me, and I can't do anything about because it's a chemical reaction. I've got to stop that. Make a decision that helps get you to where you can function for God, and don't look back. The Bible doesn't say don't take psych meds. The book, we're adding a rule when we say that.
Yeah.
Right. It also there was doctors in Jesus' day too, and you know what I'm saying. So and they couldn't always do what they were supposed to do or what they wanted to have
Let me
done.
just ask you guys: why did God create alcohol? Why does yeast consuming sugar make them pee out alcohol so that you can drink yeast pee and get
Doesn't that sound appetizing?
some kind of a buzz? Why did God make that? Is there a good purpose of it? Does it relax somebody at a time or another? You know, and where the line is of crossing into drunkenness, which is biblically discouraged. Where is your line? And if you're really uptight, is it okay?
Yeah, I've noticed that it's just kind of like our society kind of says that kind of just assumes certain things are okay. Like alcohol can be abused just the same as medicine can.
And ice cream.
I mean, sure, yeah, and like I've noticed too, like caffeine is an addictive substance. Most of America apparently suffers from it,
Mood food.
like addiction from it. And I've noticed sometimes, especially like if I drink coffee, like specifically before I go to church or something like that, I will not be able to focus because I will be thinking instead, I will have all of this energy and just thinking about everything else I could be doing. And by the time the service gets out, I completely lose track of anything.
Maybe we should stop giving coffee before morning service.
No, I think if a person is wired to be like ADHD, that little bit of caffeine might spin things faster.
Having meds and coffee in the morning actually helps me at work perform way better, because then my brain's going and I'm like, oh, I got all of this stuff to do. I can do this. I can do this. Yeah, but the problem is I've noticed I should not do that right before church, because at church I have one thing I am supposed to be doing.
That's right. You listen to the pastor. Pastors know best.
And I am thinking about literally everything else I could be doing instead.
Wow.
And I'm not listening. So
Interesting.
as a result of that, I think that caffeine genuinely is impairing my ability to serve God in that specific instance.
Wow.
And as a result, such as putting limits on alcohol, I am trying to put limits on caffeine as well.
There you go.
Like literally, I just had the example of it this morning. I again, dude, being me, forgot all of this, of course, because I got up on like 6 hours of sleep and made myself some coffee and went to church. And I wasn't really able to pay attention. And I was like, shoot, literally the thing that I was talking about, that I've been thinking about these last few weeks, I just did, and I have no idea what our pastor talked about.
Oh no.
I have good news for you though. Probably.
Is it recorded?
You could probably, I was already said that.
It is recorded, yes.
You can go back and rewatch it.
I can, yeah. I'm going to try to if I can, if I have a bit, well actually no, I will have time at work tomorrow, so I'll probably do that.
Cool.
But yeah, it's just a thing where I feel like people get caught up in the specific things, which, to be fair, like, the Bible does specifically condemn drunkenness. Right. You should not get drunk. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
Having alcohol occasionally can help, just like having caffeine can help.
And where the line of drunkenness is hard for me to know your line, you to know my line.
Yeah.
When we start to behave in ways where we are acting foolishly because we don't have the filter that we normally would, we lose our inhibitions, that's probably what drunkenness means.
This is a profound thought. I go to a restaurant, and in the bathroom for the guys, it says, drink coffee, do more stuff, do more stupid stuff faster. You know what I'm saying? That's what it says in the...
I've seen that quote before,
Yeah, and so it just popped in my brain, and I'm just thinking to myself, now we have a limit for alcohol. Do we need to have a limit for caffeine too? How far can... I mean, because there's people out there that are wired. I mean, they're like, they'll drink Red Bull, they'll drink this, they'll drink that. You'll see people... I mean, they'll have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, honestly, sometimes I think that's necessary. Like, I've had the occasional late night in college where I need to get all this studying done.
Right.
So there's times I'll crack open an energy drink like a Ghost or a Red Bull or something like that at like midnight just so I can power through and get it done. I don't do that every night.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I discovered in college, honestly, the only way to stay up studying for what's the word? The economics test the next day is to drink Red Bull. The problem is, after drinking a can, I'd pass out immediately. And so, I mean, I hear this caffeine talk, and I'm just sitting here to myself wondering, like, caffeine doesn't. I don't know if it has an effect on me or.
It's weird. I
The
used
opposite
to.
effect.
I used
Puts you to
think-
bed.
Yeah, I
No,
used to think
no,
it
not
didn't
necessarily.
either.
So
It's a
Red
weird
Bull
thing
didn't
where,
give you wings?
No.
It's weird. Like coffee can have different effects on it. Like I can drink a nice warm cup of coffee.
I drink
like
because I enjoy coffee.
before I go to bed,
Yeah,
and
same.
just be fun because it's nice, relaxing. It's warm. It calms me down.
Right.
But like if I have it in the morning, like on top of the meds I take to get me like motivated and stuff, and I know that I should be getting motivated, all of a sudden it gets it. Cue the song, kickstarts my heart, kinda. You know what I mean?
Oh, gracious.
But I'm sorry, I've had that song in my mind for a while. It's a good song. I like it. Anyways, we've actually been able to tie that into like the scripture stuff into a lot of practical real world examples too. So I think this is a perfect spot to stop as well because
Awesome.
we have also been at this for 1 hour and 53 minutes. So this is our longest ever recording session here.
We got 2 podcasts out of it.
We did, yeah. Honestly, even if we didn't even think about getting 2 podcasts out, but we would have. But
Yeah.
thanks again, everyone, for watching. I honestly think this is some of the best discussion we've had yet. I like this.
Good topic.
I'm gonna have a lot of fun editing this, I think, too. Anyways, thanks again, everyone, so much for watching. Love and appreciate all y'all. Thank you for stopping by. God bless, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.